This is the story of a school graduation night I'm gonna tell you. It's not just any story. It's something that still makes my heart race when I think about it. And I promise, every word of it is true. It happened a few years ago at my old high school. We had just finished our final exams, and the entire class was buzzing with excitement. Graduation day was coming, and everyone was talking about the big party that would happen afterward. We had permission to stay in the school building overnight, a tradition in our town. Teachers and parents would leave by 10 p.m., and after that, it was just us students. The school gave us the keys, trusted us to behave. What a mistake that was. Our school was old, not in a cute vintage way, but in a creaks at night, paint-peeling, echoes down empty halls kind of way. It had a huge basement none of us ever really went to. Rumors flew around about it being haunted, about a student who disappeared, there in the 90s. But of course, we never believed that stuff. We were just kids looking for fun. The night started like any party. Loud music, laughter, snacks everywhere. People danced in the gym, took selfies in the classrooms, wrote silly messages on the blackboards. Everything felt normal, even exciting. But then, around midnight, someone had the brilliant idea to play a game. "Let's do dares," one of my classmates said, half drunk, holding a flashlight under his face for effect. And whoever chickens out has to go down into the basement. For 10 minutes, everyone laughed. It sounded like fun. At first, the dares were silly. Kiss someone. Eat 3 slices of cold pizza in a row. Wear the principal's hat and take a picture. But then, people started losing. And that's when the basement came into play. The first person to go down was Sarah. She was the loud, brave type, always ready to prove she wasn't scared. We gave her a flashlight and started the 10-minute timer. We all sat by the top of the basement stairs, waiting and joking, listening for her voice. But 2 minutes passed, then 5, then 8. "Okay, it's not funny anymore," someone said. We were still laughing nervously when she came back up, pale, sweaty, and completely silent. Her flashlight was broken. When we asked her what happened, she just shook her head and said, "Don't go down there." That's all. No explanation. Now, if this was a movie, maybe everyone would have listened. But we didn't. Someone else thought she was just acting to freak us out. So the next loser, Jason, volunteered to go next. We gave him a new flashlight, and he even joked on his way down, yelling back, "If I die, I want my PlayStation buried with me." 10 minutes passed, then 15. No sound. We started getting nervous. Finally, 3 of us decided to go down and check. The stairs creaked as we moved down. The basement smelled like mold and something else. Something metallic. The deeper we went, the colder it got. And then, at the bottom, we saw Jason's flashlight on the ground, still on, spinning slowly like it had been dropped. But Jason wasn't there. We searched every corner of that basement, calling his name. But it was like he vanished. No sign of him. Just the silence pressing against our ears like something alive. We ran, back upstairs, yelling for help. But of course, there were no adults left in the building. It was just us. Sarah, the girl who had gone down first, finally spoke. "I told you not to go down there. There's something in that basement." We asked her what she saw. At first, she didn't want to say, but after enough pushing, she told us there's something down there, not a person, not an animal. It was tall, but it moved like it was broken. Its head turned all the way around. It whispered my name. We thought she was joking, but the look in her eyes was real, pure terror. Panic started to spread. Some kids tried to leave, but the main doors were locked. Weird, right? We had the keys, but none of them worked now. We even tried breaking a window, but it wouldn't shatter, like it was made of something else. That's when we knew something was really wrong. And then, the lights in the whole school went out. Screams echoed in the halls. People ran in every direction. I grabbed my phone, but there was no signal, not even Wi-Fi. It was like we were trapped in another world, and that's when I saw it. At the end of the hallway, near the stairs, stood a shadow. Tall, almost touching the ceiling. It didn't move right. It twitched, like it was being controlled by someone who didn't understand how humans worked. And its eyes, oh God, its eyes glowed red, but not like lights, more like burning coals. It pointed at me and whispered my name. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. I found a janitor's closet and locked myself in with 3 other students. We sat there for what felt like hours, barely breathing. Outside we could hear it, dragging footsteps, whispering, scraping nails on walls, and then silence. Morning light came through the cracks in the door. We slowly opened it. The school was empty. No music, no other students. Just silence. We walked through the building like survivors. Every hallway looked the same, but something was off. The clocks were stuck at 3:13 a.m. And the front doors, they were wide open now. No sign of them ever being locked. Outside, the sun was rising. We ran. Later that day, the police came. Our parents came. They searched the school but found no one. No bodies. No Jason. No sign of the creature. And the cameras. All of them had gone blank between midnight and 6 in the morning. They said it was hysteria, group panic, a prank gone wrong. But we know what we saw. Graduation should have been the best night of our lives. But for some of us, it became the night we never talk about. Sarah moved away 2 weeks later. She refused to stay in town. Others dropped out of college, quit talking to anyone who was there that night. As for me, I still dream about the hallway, the whisper, the red eyes. And the worst part? Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I hear my name, whispered just the way it did that night, like it's still watching, still waiting. So if you ever get the chance to spend the night at your school for graduation, don't. Because something might be waiting, down in the basement. This is the story of a school graduation night I'm going to tell you. But before I start, let me warn you. This isn't one of those fun, sweet stories where everyone hugs at the end and cries happy tears. No. This one still gives me chills, because something happened that night that none of us could explain, and some of us never made it home. It was our last day of high school. The big graduation ceremony was over. We wore our caps and gowns, threw them in the air, hugged our friends, took pictures with our parents. You know, all the usual stuff. But the part we were all looking forward to the most was the secret after party. Not the official one in the gym with teachers keeping watch. No. I'm talking about the real one. The one that took place at the old wing of the school. Now let me tell you about that wing. It was shut down years ago after a fire-damaged part of the building. No one ever repaired it. Some said it was too expensive. Others whispered that something bad happened there. Something the school didn't want to talk about. But that just made it more exciting for us. We had a plan. Around midnight, after the main party ended, about 20 of us sneaked over to the locked door behind the science block. A friend of mine, Darren, had somehow gotten a copy of the key. He always had a way of getting things he wasn't supposed to. We slipped inside one by one, laughing and whispering, holding up our phone flashlights. Inside, it was like walking into a different world. The walls were scorched. The air smelled like old ashes and mold. Dust coated everything. Broken chairs, burnt tables, cracked whiteboards. Some lockers still had stuff in them. Books, shoes, old jackets. It was like the fire froze time and no one ever bothered to clean up. We found a large room at the end of the hallway. Looked like it used to be the old library. That's where we set up. Someone had brought speakers. There were snacks, drinks, even a couple of candles for light since there was no power. It was creepy, yeah, but exciting too. Like we were doing something forbidden, something legendary. About an hour in, someone, Nina, I think, found an old journal under a desk. "Guys, check this out," she said, flipping through it. It belonged to a student, from the year the fire happened. We all crowded around as she read out loud. It was written in messy, rushed handwriting. The entries were strange. One said, "Something is in the walls. I hear scratching every night." Another one said, "Ms. Keller keeps locking room 3B. She says it's broken, but I saw her talking to it, through the door." We laughed nervously. It sounded like nonsense, a bored kid making stuff up. Until we got to the last entry. It said, "If anyone reads this, don't go to room 3B. It's still hungry." Right then, a loud bang echoed down the hallway. We all froze. Everyone turned off their flashlights. There was only the dim candlelight left. We stared at the dark hall leading to room 3B. "Probably just the wind," someone whispered. But there were no windows open. Another bang. Closer this time, followed by slow, dragging footsteps. I swear to you, I'll never forget that sound. It didn't sound human. Someone screamed. The candles blew out. Chaos. Phones lit up as people screamed and ran in every direction. I grabbed my best friend, Leo, and we ducked behind a toppled bookshelf. We stayed there, holding our breath. The footsteps got louder. Closer. Then, silence. We waited. Minutes passed. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would give us away. When we finally dared to peek out, the room was empty. Half the people were gone. We found Nina crouched in a corner, crying. "It took Marcus," she whispered. "It came out of the classroom. The door opened by itself, and something came out and grabbed him." We didn't believe her until we saw the trail. Drag marks, deep and long, across the dusty floor, leading to room 3B. We had to get out, but every door we tried was locked. Every window was sealed shut. Our phones stopped working. No signal, no calls, no maps. We were trapped. One girl, Amanda, tried to break a glass panel. She picked up a metal chair and smashed it with everything she had. It bounced off like the glass was made of stone. She tried again and again until the chair snapped in two. That's when we heard the laugh. Not a funny laugh. A low, dry, cracked laugh that didn't sound like it came from a person. It echoed from down the hall. Leah whispered, "It's playing with us." More footsteps. Now running. We had no choice. We had to hide. We split into groups. I stayed with Leo and Nina. We found a janitor's closet and locked ourselves in. From inside we could hear screams, doors slamming, more dragging, that awful laugh. Then, nothing. Hours passed. Or maybe it was minutes. Time felt broken. At one point, we opened the door a crack. The hallway was empty. A fog rolled along the floor, thick and dark like smoke. But we couldn't smell anything. We made a run for it, back to the main entrance, still locked. But the doors weren't just locked anymore. They were gone. Just a wall where the exit used to be. That's when I saw something in the reflection of a broken display case. Behind us. Tall. Thin. Its face looked like melted wax, with empty eyes and a crooked mouth that stretched too wide. It didn't walk. It floated, and it was reaching out. I turned and screamed, but it was gone. Somehow, we ended up back in room 3B. The door was open. Inside, the walls were black, burned. Symbols scratched deep into the floor. A single chair stood in the middle, facing a wall. Soon as we stepped in, the door slammed shut. We turned, but no one was there. We were trapped again. Then a voice filled the room. Not from a speaker, not from anyone we could see, just the room itself speaking. One stays, one leaves, one forgets. We didn't know what it meant until the floor began to crack beneath our feet. Leo screamed. He was pulled down, fast, like something grabbed his legs and yanked him into the darkness. Nina collapsed. She stopped moving, eyes wide open, breathing but not blinking. She just stared. And me? I blacked out. When I woke up, it was morning. I was on the lawn outside the school, alone. Everyone said I ran off during the night, that I had a breakdown, that none of the others were ever there. They said there was no party in the old wing, that it was sealed, unsafe, had been for years. No one believes me. No one remembers Leo or Nina, except me. And sometimes, late at night, I get texts from an unknown number. Just 3 words. One still remembers. So if anyone ever tells you about a secret party after graduation in an abandoned part of a school, don't go, no matter how fun it sounds. Because what happened to us wasn't a prank or a dream. It was real, and it's still hungry. This is the story of a school graduation night I'm going to tell you. It's not your regular story about students tossing their caps and celebrating with bright futures ahead. No, this one is about something dark. Something that happened when we thought we were at the happiest moment of our lives. And I swear, every word I'm about to tell you is real. I was there. It was the night of our graduation. Everyone was buzzing with excitement. Students wore their gowns, parents were proud, teachers were emotional. There were speeches, laughter, and so many pictures. But the real excitement began after the ceremony ended. See, someone had this crazy idea to throw a private graduation party at the old Belridge Academy building. The school that had shut down 20 years ago after a student went missing during a fire drill. Yeah, I know. It already sounds like a horror movie. But we were young and stupid. We thought it would be epic. That place had a bad reputation. They said it was cursed, that weird things happened there. The missing student was never found, and ever since, the building was locked up and left to rot. But that didn't stop us. A senior named Tyler got the keys from his cousin who worked with the local fire department. Around midnight, 15 of us snuck away from the official party and drove up to Belridge, laughing and joking like it was the best idea ever. When we got there, it looked exactly like what you'd expect. Broken windows, vines creeping up the walls, and this strange silence, like even the insects were afraid of the place. But of course, we pushed forward. Tyler unlocked the side door, and we stepped inside. The air was cold. Not cool, not breezy, cold. Like walking into a freezer. Some of the girls said we should leave. But Tyler, being Tyler, just laughed and told ghost stories to mess with them. And we stayed. We set up in what used to be the main hallway. Someone had a speaker. Another person lit candles since the power was long gone. Music played softly. People danced and drank, and it almost felt normal. Until around 1 a.m. That's when we heard it. A school bell. It was soft at first. Then it rang again, louder. We froze. The school had been abandoned for 2 decades. There was no way any system still worked. "What was that?" whispered Kayla, clinging to my arm. Maybe an old-timer or something, Tyler said, trying to sound brave. Relax. But we were all looking at each other now, because we had all heard it. And then, lockers started banging open one by one, all the way down the hallway. Bang, bang, bang. Not from a breeze, not randomly. It was like someone, or something, was walking down the corridor, opening them one by one, coming closer and closer. We turned off the music. The room fell into a dead silence. You could hear the sound of breathing, shaky, fast. Tyler took his flashlight and walked toward the hallway. "I'm gonna check," he said. "Stay here." We waited. A minute passed, then another. "Tyler," I called out. Nothing. We walked carefully toward the hallway and found his flashlight on the floor, still on, spinning slowly in place like it had been dropped mid-run. But Tyler was gone. "All right," said Maya, her voice trembling. "This isn't funny anymore." We turned to go back, and that's when the hallway behind us changed. The doors we'd come through, gone. The windows, bricked up. Everything looked older, dirtier. And I swear, it felt like the building itself had shifted. Then we saw something on the wall. It hadn't been there before. A list, written in red. It read, "Class of 2003, missing. 1. Class of 2007, missing. 2. Class of 2012, missing. 1. Class of 2023, missing. 1. So far." We stared at it. I couldn't even breathe. What did it mean? So far. Was it counting us? Then, as if to answer, the bell rang again. Ding! And the hallway lights flickered to life, even though the place had no power. That's when we saw them. Students. Or at least, they looked like students. But they were wrong. Their faces were blank, hollow eyes. Their graduation gowns were ripped and stained, and their skin looked gray, almost moldy. They were walking down the hall slowly, heads tilted, moving like puppets. We ran. We didn't think. We just ran. We split up. Some went upstairs, others deeper into the school. I stayed with Kayla and a few others. We ducked into a classroom and locked the door. Inside, it looked like it had been used recently. Desks were arranged neatly. A chalkboard had a lesson on it. There were even warm coffee mugs on the teacher's desk, but the mugs were full of black water, and when one of us touched a desk, their hand came away burned. We knew we had to get out. We tried to break the window. With a chair, it didn't even crack. Then the intercom turned on. A voice, distorted and broken, spoke. "Graduates, return to your seats. Attendance is mandatory." The door handle started shaking. We had seconds. There was a closet in the room. We hid inside, all 6 of us. I was sure we'd be found. But instead, the door to the classroom opened. The thing walked in. I could hear its breathing, wet, raspy. I peeked through a crack and saw its face. It was Tyler, but not really him. His eyes were gone. His mouth stretched too wide, like it had been torn. And he wore a sash that said valedictorian. He sniffed the air, then turned and left. We waited until everything went silent. Then we crept out. Only 4 of us were left now. We made our way back through the halls, dodging shadows, ignoring voices that sounded like our friends calling for help. They weren't real. They couldn't be. At one point, we passed a mirror. We didn't have reflections, only the building did. We finally reached the gym. It looked untouched, like nothing had happened. In the middle of the room, there were 4 chairs, one for each of us. A note on the floor read, "To graduate, you must take your final seat." Kayla wanted to run, but I don't know why, I felt like we had no choice. We sat. The lights went out. When they came back on, it was morning. We were lying on the grass outside Belridge, covered in dirt, shaking. Everyone else who had gone with us? Gone. Only 4 of us made it out. But we don't talk about it. The others don't remember anything. And Tyler was never found. But sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear that bell ring again. And I see a list in my mind. Class of 2023, missing. 11, escaped. 4. But the doors will open again. So if anyone ever tells you to party in an abandoned school after graduation, remember what I said. Some buildings don't stay empty. Some schools still take attendance. This is the story of a school graduation night I'm gonna tell you. And believe me, it's not like any graduation story you've heard before. It's not about caps and gowns, cheers, or future plans. It's about how a night that was supposed to be full of joy turned into something dark and terrifying. Something that still haunts me to this day. So picture this. It's graduation night at Lakewood High, a small school nestled beside an old forest. The whole senior class was buzzing. We had spent years dreaming of this night, our final celebration before life pulled us in different directions. After the ceremony, a group of us decided to go to the old community center for a party. It was this rundown building, kind of forgotten, just on the edge of town near the forest. Perfect place to have some fun away from the watchful eyes of parents and teachers, or so we thought. We arrived around 10 p.m., carrying snacks, drinks, and a Bluetooth speaker. The center was dusty, with peeling paint and broken windows. Still, the energy was high. We laughed, danced, and told stories under flickering lights. But the longer we stayed, the more uneasy I began to feel. Something about the place was wrong. Then, just after midnight, the power went out. The whole building plunged into darkness. At first, we thought it was just a blackout. Someone pulled out their phone flashlights, and we joked about having a spooky atmosphere for our party. But the silence that followed was too thick, too heavy. No one said much after that. Suddenly, from somewhere deep inside the building, we heard a soft tapping sound. At first, I thought it was just a branch hitting the window or some animal outside. But then the tapping got louder, rhythmic, steady, like footsteps pacing the old wooden floors. Probably just the wind, someone said, but their voice was shaky. The tapping turned into footsteps, slow, deliberate footsteps coming closer to where we were gathered. We froze. Our laughter stopped. The air felt colder, and then the unmistakable sound of a door creaking open echoed through the room. We all looked toward the hallway that led to the entrance. There was a shadow moving there, a dark figure stepping inside. But no one came in, just the shadow. It stayed at the edge of the light, unmoving. "Guys, maybe we should get out," whispered Mia, clutching her jacket tight. Before anyone could respond, the shadow vanished. But that wasn't the worst part. Suddenly, the old radio in the corner crackled on. It wasn't plugged in. Couldn't have been powered at all. Static filled the room, and then, through the hiss, a voice emerged. "Class of 2024, you are late." We all looked at each other, eyes wide with fear. The voice was strange, distorted, but it was clear. A cold shiver ran down my spine. "Who's messing around with the radio?" someone asked, but no one was near it. The voice came again, slower this time. "Time to graduate, or stay forever." Panic set in. People started gathering their things, pushing toward the door. But when we tried to open it, it wouldn't budge. It was as if the building itself had swallowed us whole. The temperature dropped even more. I could see my breath like a ghost in the air. And then, from the corner of the room, the tapping started again. But this time, it wasn't footsteps. It was fingernails, scraping against the walls, moving closer and closer. We backed away until we hit the opposite wall. The radio crackled again, this time with laughter. Not human laughter, but something broken, twisted. Then, the shadow returned, stepping fully into the light. It was a girl, or maybe what was left of one. Her clothes were torn, face pale and stretched in a way that made her look more like a mask than a person. Her eyes were hollow pits that seemed to swallow the light. She stared at us, her lips moving but no sound. Came out, Mia screamed, and someone tripped, knocking over a chair that crashed loudly to the floor. The ghostly girl vanished instantly. We ran to the door again. This time, it opened just a crack. Outside, the hallway looked different. The walls were covered in old photos, yearbooks from past graduations, but all the faces were scratched out except one. A girl in the 1982 yearbook with the same pale, hollow eyes as the shadow. My heart raced. "That's her," I said, pointing at the photo. "Who?" someone asked. But before I could answer, the door slammed shut behind us. We were trapped in a corridor with dozens of photos staring down at us. Then, one by one, the pictures started to move. The scratched-out faces shifted and twisted. Their eyes opened wide and stared straight at us. Some began to whisper, faint voices repeating the same warning over and over. "Don't stay. Don't graduate here." We pressed on, desperate for an exit. But every turn led to another room just like this one, filled with haunted memories and ghostly warnings. We found ourselves in the auditorium, the same place where we had received our diplomas, just hours ago, but it wasn't the same auditorium anymore. The chairs were filled with shadowy figures, all former graduates who never left. Their faces frozen in silent screams, hands reaching out for us. The stage was set for a ceremony, but instead of happy cheers, a chilling wind swept through the room. On the stage, a lone figure stood. An old man wearing a tattered cap and gown, his face hidden under a heavy hood. He raised a hand and the lights dimmed further. Then, in a voice like cracking ice, he said, "Welcome to your final graduation. You may leave, only if you survive." Suddenly, the doors slammed shut. The floor beneath us trembled and split open, revealing a swirling darkness. One by one, the shadowy graduates lunged toward us, their cold hands grabbing at our clothes and skin. We fought and screamed, desperate to escape the grasp of the lost souls. In the chaos, I saw friends disappear into the abyss, pulled down into the darkness where no light could reach. I grabbed Mia's hand and dragged her toward an emergency exit sign glowing faintly in the distance. It flickered, as if barely holding back the shadows. We sprinted toward it, but the hallway seemed endless, twisting and turning like a nightmare maze. Just when we thought we were done for, we burst through a door and into the night air. The moon was full, the forest silent except for our ragged breaths. We looked back. The community center stood still and quiet, no sign of the horrors inside. But none of us spoke about what happened that night. Not at first. In the days that followed, strange things started happening. Our phones showed messages from numbers we didn't know with simple words, "Don't forget to graduate." Friends started disappearing, just like those shadowy graduates. Some turned up days later, eyes blank, unable to remember who they were. Others were never found. I left town shortly after, but the memory clings to me like a shadow. I don't know what exactly happened that night. Was the community center cursed? Was that old man some kind of twisted spirit punishing those who dared to celebrate in a place that held too many secrets? Maybe. All I know is this. Graduation is supposed to be a celebration of moving forward, of new beginnings. But sometimes, when you take one step too far, the past doesn't want to let you go. So if you ever hear about a party at a forgotten place, on graduation night, please don't go. Because some doors, once opened, never close. And some graduations are never really over. This is the story of a school graduation night I'm going to tell you. One that started like a dream but ended in a way no one expected. A night full of excitement, friends, and hope turned into something no one ever wanted to remember. So, listen closely, because this story is not just about a celebration. It's about a secret buried deep under the school, and how that secret came alive on graduation night. It was the last day of school, and the whole senior class of Riverside High was ready to party. We had waited for this moment for years, finally free from homework, tests, and the pressure of school life. The graduation ceremony went well. Caps flew into the air, families cheered, and smiles were everywhere. But we all knew the real party was about to start after the ceremony at the old Riverside gym. The gym had been closed for months. The school said it was unsafe, but some of the teachers whispered that it was because of the accident. No one wanted to talk about the accident, but we all knew something bad happened there years ago. Still, that didn't stop us. The seniors had planned to sneak in for one last wild night before moving on. That night, about 20 of us gathered outside the gym after dark. The building looked scary, its windows broken, and the paint peeling like the walls themselves were crying. The heavy doors groaned as we pushed them open. Inside, the gym smelled like dust and old wood, mixed with something else. Something like burnt rubber and wet stone. The place was huge and empty, with only a few flickering lights hanging from the ceiling. We set up the music and brought some snacks, ready to have fun and forget all our worries. At first, everything was great. We danced, laughed, and shared stories about our time in school. But as the night grew darker, the mood started to change. I don't know if you've ever felt that sudden chill in the air, like the whole room stopped breathing. That's what happened when the clock struck midnight. Suddenly, the lights all went out. Just blackness. The music stopped, and the gym was filled with a strange silence, except for a soft, wet sound coming from the far side of the room. At first, nobody said anything. We all held our breath, trying to figure out what was happening. Then, someone screamed. From the darkness came a sound like dragging chains, slow and heavy. It echoed through the empty gym and sent a shiver down my spine. One of the guys in our group, Jake, grabbed his phone and tried to turn on the flashlight, but the light flickered and died after just a second. We were left with nothing but the shadows. Then, a whisper floated through the air. It was soft, but clear. Leave. Now. We looked around, trying to find where the voice came from. It was everywhere and nowhere at once. Mia, who was standing closest to the old bleachers, pointed trembling fingers. Over there, behind the bleachers. We slowly moved toward that corner. As we got closer, the air grew colder, like we were walking into a freezer. Behind the bleachers, the wall looked strange. The bricks were cracked and covered in strange symbols, scratched deep like someone had been trying to write a warning. Suddenly, the wall shifted. A hidden door slid open, revealing a dark staircase leading down into the basement. No one wanted to go down there. We all knew the basement was off limits, even when the gym was open. Rumors said the basement was where the accident happened. A fire, years ago. But the fire never fully destroyed the place. Something had survived, but curiosity got the better of us. We knew the party couldn't continue in the dark, and besides, maybe this was a chance to discover the truth about the old gym. So, with trembling hands and pounding hearts, we descended the stairs. The basement was cold, damp, and smelled like mold and rust. The only light came from our phones, which flickered weakly against the thick stone walls. As we moved deeper, we noticed something written on the floor in what looked like dried blood. The words were smeared but still readable. "Never leave this place unfinished." Before we could react, the heavy door at the top of the stairs slammed shut with a deafening bang. We were trapped. Panic spread fast. People pushed and shoved to find the way back, but the door wouldn't budge. The basement was alive with strange noises now, whispers, scratching, and the sound of soft footsteps moving just out of sight. Suddenly, the lights on our phones went out. Darkness swallowed us whole. For a moment, pure silence. Then a scream pierced the darkness. Mia's scream. We grabbed each other's hands, trying to stay together. But the basement was twisting and changing, like a maze that didn't want us to escape. In the faint moonlight coming through a small window high above, I saw shapes moving in the shadows. Figures, faces pale and twisted, eyes glowing faintly. They moved slowly, watching us with hunger. The stories about the accident weren't just stories. The fire didn't just kill people, it trapped their souls here. We ran, guided by the smallest flicker of light, but the basement seemed endless. Then, one by one, people started to disappear. First Jake, then Sarah, then Chris. Each time someone vanished, a cold silence followed. It felt like the basement was feeding on our fear, using the trapped spirits to keep us from leaving. Finally, only 4 of us remained. Me, Mia, Lena, and David. We found a room that looked like an old trophy hall, but the trophies were broken and covered in dust. On the wall was a large mirror, cracked, but still reflecting our scared faces. Suddenly, the mirror began to ripple like water. Through it, a shadowy figure stepped out. A woman in a burnt graduation gown. Her face half melted, eyes full of pain and anger. She spoke, her voice like 1,000 echoes. "You've disturbed our rest. The fire took us too soon. Now you must join us." She raised her hands, and the mirror behind her shattered, releasing a swarm of dark shapes that surrounded us. We screamed, running from the room as the basement shook violently. At the top of the stairs, the door was still closed. But David spotted a small grate on the side wall. "We can climb out through there," he shouted. We squeezed through the narrow space, scraping our hands and knees, but we didn't stop. When we finally burst outside, the cold night air hit us like a wave. The gym was silent again, and the hidden door was gone, replaced by the cracked wall. We never spoke of that night to anyone else, but the truth stayed with us. Some of our friends never came back from the basement, and every year, on graduation night, strange noises are heard near the old gym, whispers carried by the wind, shadows flickering through broken windows. Riverside High's graduation became a legend, a warning that some places hold memories too dark to forget. So, if you ever hear about a graduation party at an abandoned school gym, think twice before you go, because sometimes the past doesn't want to let go, and some graduations are just the beginning of a much darker story.